Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, you got a bunch of us back again. Third show for the day. Can't stop, won't stop, something like that. And today, I got a bunch of rejects with us, and we're going to be talking about occult and symbolism. That topic was brought to you by the Headless Giant. And thank you very much, Headless. I thought it was a great topic. But before we let Headless take this over, we will have the other rejects introduce themselves. And I got with me the occult reject, mad scientist, Lisa herself. What is going on?
3 for 3. We've done 3 episodes today. Yes, we have. Doing well, and I'm very excited to be doing something with just the rejects. Kind of partial to that.
Yeah.
And just kind of throwing around, our noggins on the hand symbolism. So thank you for inviting me on. Thank you, fellow rejects, and apologies for me interrupting you here in the future of this episode. And the only thing I'd like to plug is occultresearchinstitute.org. And you can find me on Twitter on Solis Lisa.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And we got my man Jin, Friday Ninja, Friday Jin the Ninja, or whatever. Friday something else. I don't know. Good stuff.
What's up, Nick? Thank you so much for having me on. I just want to echo what Lisa said. The Rejects episodes are my personal favorite as well. Not that I don't obviously love a guest. I do. Obviously, that's my show is a lot about guests. So, but I come on here really to talk to you guys. So for me, that's for me. So I just want to say I appreciate that. And just released an episode with Toby Chappell, Strange Angles, episode 72. So it's kind of a axial, we'll call it, episode for me. So big deal. And obviously Nick made the connect for me. So thank you so much, Nick. I obviously owe that to you, Mr. 93. And and then obviously we, Nick and I and Matt Mora from the Grey Lodge came on and we did a Kabbalah episode just the other day on Binah and Dath, which was really cool and really good. I listened to it back and a lot of people really liked it. So great job on that. And Solar co-hosted, I should have said, sorry, Solar Exile, who was on this show to do with Dr. Stephen Flowers. He co-hosted the episode with Toby Chappell with me. So shout out to him 100% because it's obviously he's co-hosting with me on the episode. So if people want to follow me and check out those episodes, Threshold Saints at Threshold Saints, IG and Twitter X, and then at Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn. That's my personal account. And there's a link tree, and Nick throws it in the show notes. So just check that out. And Threshold Saints, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and Spreaker, all that. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, we got Tyrone. What is going on, sir?
Hi, what's going on, everybody? Everything that you can find on me is on my website, rebirthoftheword.com. I'm glad to be able to participate in this discussion. And if you are interested in reading my book, Journey Through the Origins of History, it was a bestseller on Amazon. Appreciate it, Nick.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Appreciate you, sir. And we got Tim Constantine joining us. What is going on, sir? How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, I've got a Sunday show over at Cult of Conspiracy. That show's called Conspiracy Garden. And my main show, the best place to find me is, Sixth Sensory Podcast on all the major platforms. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, of course. No, thank you. And we got my man, the Headless Giant. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate this this topic and everything. So let everybody know who you are and take it away.
All right. You can find me on X and on YouTube at the Headless Giant. I can be reached by email for my Thursday night show about your emails for our listening pleasure. So you can email me at theheadlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com. And this Thursday, we're going to be doing it again. So I hope to see your email there, and we'll get on with that. Also tomorrow, I've got the trilogues with my boy Ethan and with Ricardo. So that's going to be an awesome time. We usually just come together and throw together a show, and it seems to work. A lot of people like it. So check it out. And today, I wanted to get into hand symbolism. So if you've been watching the Rejects for a while, you know that we try to do some sort of anchoring where we're taking meaning from the body and looking at the occult symbols that all match up here. And to me, the hand is like one of these ultimate symbols of magic and power and humanness, really, because our hands look way different from most of the stuff that we're surrounded by, even by monkey paws. I mean, these are very uniquely human in terms of our own way of perceiving it. So to start off with, I think that it's important to know that there's a fractaline level to the geometry in the hand, right? So you've got 5 fingers, right? The pentagram is 5 points, and the pentagram can be infinitely scaled up or down based off of the golden ratio. And just so happens you can find a lot of golden ratio in the joints around your hand. So this thing is like our connection to that greater spiral fractality that we see happening with a lot of these geometric shapes. So it's hands creating hands, really. That's what humans are doing. This is how we interact with our environment. This is the idea of us being able to change our situation, us being able to build in a situation. These are all very important when it comes to magic. And so one of the hands that I like to think about a lot is the hand of Sebasios. This thing has got so many symbols packed into it. Just absolutely amazing. You've got the cave where Zeus was nursed back to health down in the wrist. You've got it looks like a pan right there in the middle where the palm is. You've got a pine cone on the thumb. You've got a snake that wraps around the whole thing and then comes up between the 2 fingers. And as you can tell, the pose that it is in all the pictures of Jesus Christ, as well as the saints, pointing up towards heaven, pointing down towards hell. This mysterious figurine was most likely put on top of a pole so that everybody could see it. Right? This is like the idol's idol. It's got all of these different mythologies all pressed together into one single figure. And this was the hand of Sebasios. Now, Sebasios is an interesting god because it comes through this Thracian line. Sebasios was always depicted as a young, sort of strapping man on a horse with a spear. And he was the son of either Zeus and Persephone, which was sort of a later interpretation, or Cybele through herself, right? So Cybele is kind of like this virgin priestess. So he was either self-born through Cybele, or he was kind of born through Zeus and Persephone, the goddess of the underworld. And that union of Zeus and Persephone is pretty interesting too, because this really goes into Dionysus, right? So Dionysus's original form is this character called Zagreus. And Zagreus is a god that was supposed to be formed between either Zeus and Persephone or Hades and Persephone. And there's kind of a disagreement there. Some people say that he's from Olympus. Some people say that he was born in the underworld. But this Zagreus character would then be ripped apart by the Titans. And this is one of the first retellings of how mankind came into existence. Because what we're said to be is we're said to be gross material or Titan flesh with divine spark within us. So as the Titans consumed the body and blood of this character, Zagreus, it put the spirit into mankind, into this gross material flesh. Does that sound familiar? Well, this idea of Zagreus moves on after he's chewed up. His heart is then placed into the thigh of Zeus. And Zeus then bursts out with this new character called Dionysus. And this is the Dionysian cycle in the first part of Dionysus' existence. And it's said that this Dionysian character is like the son of God and the ultimate truth or the ultimate God of this world. And so there's a lot of crossover between these Thracian mysteries and Dionysus and Jesus, for that matter. So as you see on that thumb, you can see the pine cone. Well, Dionysus carried a pine cone on his walking stick, and this is out in front of the Vatican today. You've got that massive pine cone still in existence, still sort of keeping that Dionysian feel to the Vatican, which is almost like a continuation of these Thracian mysteries through Cybele and all the rest of it. They kind of kept this character. They kind of kept it alive. So this all comes through the hand symbol. Now, one of the things that I found interesting about this hand symbol as well is the Idaean dactyls. And the Idaean dactyls were like these gods of sport, right? The dactyls of Mount Ida in Crete. Mount Ida is one of the holiest mountains for all of Greece. Invented the art of working metals into usable shapes with fire. So this is one of the gods. This would be let me see here. What's his name? It's not letting me scroll. Anyways, so Hephaestus is one of these Idaean dactyls, right? And then the Corybantes are also integrated with that too. And the dactyli are like the 5 fingers of the gods. Heracles is also one of these 5 fingers and instigated the Olympic Games. So as you know, in ancient Greece, they love to have these naked Olympic sports. And all of that was actually in service to these Idaean dactyls, right? These are like the highest competitive characters within their pantheon. So anytime they would win a battle, they'd be like, all right, everybody strip naked. We're having the Olympics. We're having games, right? Because this was sort of in service to their gods. As they were expending their energy and showing who was the best out of everybody gathered, they were also establishing a pecking order that was sort of granted to them by the gods. So their hyper competitiveness on the sport field also translated into hyper competitiveness on the battlefield. So all of these sports have to do with the will of the gods as it's coming through them. And you can see over and over again, these sports sort of take the attention of the population almost as if it's a religious ritual. And you find all the religious symbolism within sport all having to do with, who wins and who loses in these symbolic fights, proving who's the top of the heap. And if you think about the hands and what they're capable of producing and how related it is to God in this sense, you can kind of see why there's kind of a reverence paid at these different sporting events, how there's kind of an alternate identity created, and the entertainment of it almost brands different areas or parts of the country and sort of gives them a new meaning as well. I mean, look at the mascots of these different sporting teams. It changes the colors of different regions, and these colors have a huge impact on the psychology of the people experiencing that kind of situation. So you can almost use these as a magico-religious symbol to influence the population through sport. And that's my presentation on the hand symbolism, at least coming through Greece.
I love the pine cone element to this, and I might be jumping ahead here, but I'm always down to learn more about why the ancients were depicted holding the pine cone. But I'll say this: you brought up Persephone. It does remind me of her in the sense that she was often depicted holding a pomegranate, which is like a symbol for life, death, rebirth, and divinity. And I think that's
wrote a book using the pomegranates in the name. So
yeah,
it is used for
the orchard of pomegranates. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then I'll cap it off with this: the whole rebirth divinity thing I find super interesting, because I think a lot of these kings, these old ancient kings like Ashurbanipal or Nebuchadnezzar even, were trying to alchemically transmute and achieve some sort of a rebirth that would give way to divinity. They were trying to deify, it seems. But it all goes back to hand symbolism.
Tim, think about where all the Apostle Paul sent his letters up in Turkey, right? Those are all the Thracian homelands, right? So those are the same kinds of crossover there with this dying and resurrecting Savior, and that's where he's sending his letters to.
Yeah. Heavy on the Greek.
If I could kind of expand upon the thumb.
I was going to ask you about that actually specifically. So.
Yeah, Nick and I have had this discussion, which is interesting because you've said something about, your rituals as well. not yours specifically, but the rituals that you participated in. So there is, and Jen, please, this kind of, I know you have a little bit of knowledge on this too, in terms of like, I believe the body ley lines or reflexology, they believe that the thumb is connected to the pineal gland. Well, okay, so the concept is that there are specific points on the hands and feet that corresponds with the organs of the body. And the way that it was told to me whenever I was doing acupuncture was that when you are developing in the fetus, you're developing in a fetal position. So the cells that are used to form the hands or the back of the hand or whatever is closely related to like your chest area, right? Because you kind of develop like this. So it's almost aligned or they can feel each other because they almost come from the same area of whenever during fetal development. Please, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong. But so with that in mind, I believe there is, I think it's reflexology, and I want to say that it's acupuncture too, but they believe that there is points on the tip of the thumb that correspond to the pineal gland, and that if you massage the tip of the thumb, it's believed to stimulate the pineal gland, not only in awakening or awareness, but also encourage melatonin production. So I think when you go like to these alternative medicine type institutions, that they do that in order to help like with improving sleep or promote relaxation and stuff like that. So I do know that there is that.
No, that was great, Lisa. So I'll answer in two ways. One is a tantric way, but it ties in with the yogic way. So the later yogis weren't tantric, but they kind of had an idea of what that was, like magic, really. And so they were writing their like treatises on hatha yoga, their sutras. And so they kind of reformulated because they didn't have all the clues or the keys, maybe you could say. So they had to sort of reformulate their broken knowledge of the tantric ideas. So there's different ways that you can actually assign in tantra. For each finger is actually related to an element, and there are obviously 5 elements in tantra. The thumb is often associated with akasha or the mind, but it can also be like the akashic records, obviously. So something like what you're saying, stimulating the memory, stimulating the mind, stimulating the pineal gland to have like spiritual experiences. So what mudras really are, like, this is really great, Headless, thank you for bringing that up, is that mudras really are about the connections between the fingers. You're actually doing a very subtle tantric, what is called tantric dancing, actually, and you're subtly touching the fingers to each other in the specific movements. But what you're actually doing is you're doing elemental invocations, like very yadhe vave, actually. So yeah, that's basically what it is. And that's even how you would do a ritual sadhana, is that you would change your mudras depending on the specific timing or grammar within that specific sadhana. So you would be activating the different elemental configurations, you could even say. And you'd always do air last. So that's interesting because sometimes earth is given to the pinky and sometimes air is given to the pinky. But it does actually matter. So what I'm saying is the way you formulate it actually changes. So if someone does it one way, it's not going to work for someone else who thinks of it in a totally different way, in another way. Because it really matters, like your starting point.
Jen, I got one for you. So you know who else was a Thracian? You got it? Pythagoras.
Oh,
Because you keep all the numbers you need right here.
that's true. Yeah, 10. Oh, you can use your feet. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Pythagoras was so huge on that. I mean, you've got the idea of number all embodied inside of these hands, you know, as your very first starting point within the whole world of numbers. And you've got the perfect symbol for base 10, you know, right there on both sides of your body.
10 in masonry means perfection, or at least one of them, one of the theories or ideas for number 10.
I think 0 is a very profound concept. I'm sure Lisa has also thoughts on this, but I find 0 to be a very profound concept, and I actually think it was a very innovative, magical idea. I know a lot of people like, I just did an episode on the value of number 9 with someone who's like, in the order of trapezoids. But for me, I'm just saying for me, I prefer a base 10. I think that there's something more interesting and like more, it seems to be more progressive. I'm not using that word politically, but I'm just saying it's like forward thinking magic. It's not backwards looking. That's just my perception, but maybe that's wrong. But
Well,
So-
it could have to do with how they're associated, right? So the base 6s and all the rest of these other systems might have other focuses that they put into their numbering system as part of a body heuristic,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a possibility.
Speaking about the numbers here, the bottom of a pine cone, at least some of the ones I've seen, has a Fibonacci sequence. So if you think about it, if it also represents the third eye or the pineal gland, you've got the third eye wrapped up in that, I would, wager. But it's like the third eye meets the Fibonacci sequence, which is like the golden ratio with the numbers, like higher math, higher science. So it's almost like if you see somebody holding that and you're mixing these two concepts of like third eye and higher math found in nature, it's almost symbolic of the human being like receiving gnosis or receiving knowledge. Like with this picture you had up, there's a pine cone at the person's fingertips. To me, this is symbolic of, I don't know, receiving higher knowledge, perhaps.
I just want to respond really quick, Tim. So I think that's super profound what you said. And I actually think this goes back to the episode I just did with Nick and Matt. And because we were talking about Binah. Binah is that higher math, that kind of higher intellectual thinking, exactly what you're talking about. And that perceptual element, that element that's in perception of that higher knowledge is Hesed. So it's that Saturn-Jupiter connection. That's kind of what makes the world real. It's like we see it, we know it, exactly what you said, higher knowledge, and we understand it. All of those three things at the same time.
And
Sorry, I had to do Kabbalah, Nick. I apologize.
Oh, good. No, you're good. Thank you.
I want to build upon what Jen said because of the Kabbalah, and then it made me think of numbers. One of the things with the thumb still staying around the thumb is that the thumb itself is controlled by 9 muscles. Well, let me rephrase that. So there are no, contrary to popular belief, there are no muscles in your fingers. It's only tendons and ligaments, right? And they're connected to muscles, and that's kind of how it works. And it works like in a rope pulley type system. But with the thumb, the thumb itself is controlled by 9 muscles, and it has 3 major nerves. So you have the number 93.
93?
And then there are, I believe, 6 potential directions or movements that the thumb can make at the base joint. So going back to what you were talking about, Jen, you have this 369 vortex math. You have any kind of called the golden ratio, and not 369 is the golden ratio, but you have all of these types of what we've heard, these things over and over in secret societies or occult practices, these numbers or these orientations happening all again within the thumb. So thought I'd throw that in there as well.
That's really great, Lisa. Like 369, like just think about in Kabbalah. It's Binah, Tiferet, and Yesod. And like I always tease Nick about this because he always says that he used to listen to David Icke back in the day, and David Icke talks about the Saturn Moon matrix, right? Well, that is, I mean, that he's talking about something fundamentally real in Kabbalah. Like that is an important Kabbalistic lesson, is that everything is formed in your mind. So when he's saying it's like a matrix that you're trapped in it, he's not actually talking about like there's an external matrix. He's talking about like your kind of consciousness matrix, like you're saying you're trapped. And that's exactly what those numbers are, because 6 is really the higher apotheosis of all of those things in synthesis. So very profound. Thank you, Lisa.
No. Thank you, Jen. And then if we ever get to do the Gnostic Mass,
You have to.
that one of the things with the pineal and Jen, you kind of jogged my memory on this. With the pineal, you can charge your pineal by, I think it's a full moon facing north. Yeah. So again, going back to
North
the whole
Pole,
pineal.
facing the North
Do
Pole
what?
on a full moon would facing the North Pole on a full moon charges your pineal gland because that totally makes sense.
So that's one of the, I guess, theories out there that potentially you could charge your pineal during a full moon facing north. That's, I don't know when, I don't know at what point. That's all I just remember from reading. But yeah. So going back to the whole lunar thing of what Jen was saying with the Kabbalah. Yeah.
I think Crowley actually suggested to look at the moon when it was full. I'm not sure.
That's where I got it from. You told me that.
Yeah.
You
One thing
told me that you face north at midnight. And I was like, well, that's interesting because I do know that the pineal is receptive to moonlight frequency, electromagnetic frequency from the moon. And you can potentially charge it because it can sense it at midnight from
Yes.
full moon facing north. So
Yeah,
Sorry,
that goes.
I just want to. Sorry, no.
Yeah, you go because I'm gonna have a bunch I want to say.
Okay, I'm just gonna be really quick. I just want to say to jump off Lisa's point is that that's a really interesting thing that you said about the apex of the moon at midnight, because that is actually in tantric astrology. That is what is considered as the apex. The true north at midnight is the moon, whereas at noon in tantric astrology, I'm not saying this is real, but I'm just saying in tantric astrology, it's Venus. So very interesting, kind of feminine. Both have feminine, specifically feminine qualities.
See, even at noon when you do, going back to Resh, that is something I do want to, I think, eventually cover. And I think from what Lisa's saying and the other stuff, the other prayers, I do think it's to charge your pineal gland for sure. But even when you face at noon, when you're facing and you're doing the prayer, you're still even actually including a chick at that time. You're praying to Hathor. Now I know that's like, to me, I used to sometimes use Hathor for Netzach anyway, even though, but I found that interesting how you said a female or whatever, a Venus. And again, it's associated, this prayer is associated with the female during the day. So maybe you're onto something.
and
What's
that's
the
that's
what's-
you do charge it at midday too. Sorry, Tim. At midday, at noon, you do charge your pineal as well, because at noon, depending where you are on the surface of the earth, you're receiving all of the light in its appropriate ratios of the electromagnetic spectrum. So yeah.
Yeah, you've got 12 o'clock noon, and then you've got the 12 phases of the moon. I'm just thinking about the numbers here, and the golden ratio is like 1.6 something. So there's a 6 in there if you're thinking about 369.
1618 or something like that.
Yeah. And if you add the 1 and the 8, you get the 9. So technically, it has a 6 and a 9 in there. But I was going to ask, what's the association with Venus? Because was there association with Venus that was mentioned?
Oh
It's
no,
all
maybe
tribally
he's
coded.
maybe Jen said something about feminine, and that reminded me of the prayer at 12 o'clock was also a feminine deity that you pray to. Maybe he didn't say Venus, and I fucked that up.
Well,
No, I
that's
did say
it.
Venus. Sorry,
Oh.
Venus is at the apex of the north. Is true north at noon, just at that point in the sky. That's this is one idea.
And it was the first star that you can see in the morning, right?
Yeah, it's the
If I'm
morning
not
star.
mistaken.
It can be the rising and falling star. This is really interesting in tantric astrology, actually, is that both Mars and Venus can be the rising and falling star, depending, or the morning and evening star. They switch.
Okay. And those two points in the earth, I mean on the earth, is what is the switch, like literally, like light switch to turn on and off your pineal gland. Is the crepuscular times or the dawn, dusk, whatever. So
Yeah, I see this as being saturated with divine feminine. If we're talking about Hathor and if we're talking about Venus, and even the Bible mentions the morning star in association with Venus. And if you go
Right.
further into that, I would suggest that it's probably associated with Inanna, Astarte, Ishtar.
And also,
Who
Jesus
is
was called Son of
Venus.
the Morning. Jesus was called Son of the Morning as well.
Jesus was the child of the North Star, though, really.
Depending on what
So-
translation you want to use, they'll call him the Morning Star.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it has to do with different parts of the year. And, we see that again with Venus, which the morning star part of the year is the spring. And then for the summer, it goes away. And then like fall, winter, it's in the evening part of the sky. So there is this dichotomy between when it shows up during the year. So I think a lot of that has to do with the calendar.
One thing I did want to mention too, this was why I said I was going to talk for a little bit, is because the OTO, fuck it, when I did my second degree initiation, you guys got me thinking with that whole thumb thing. Let me just go back a little bit. There has been times during the initiations where, like, I'll just use this as an example. I'm already saying stuff I'm not supposed to. They'll take a sword and not hit you hard, but they'll tap your waist. And they tell you at some point after you do the initiation, sometimes like a few weeks, maybe a month later, they'll have a class, and anybody who's ever done that degree can come in and take the class, and they'll kind of go over it a little bit. And normally they'll have like people that just did that initiation kind of come in and say some stuff. And they had said that when they do that sword thing, it was to activate that chakra down there. Now, during the second degree, there's at one point they give you this thing. It's a piece of wood, it has a screw on the top of it. And they specifically tell you to put it on your thumb and screw it down until you can't, until you can, until I guess you can bear it anymore. I mean, I already, from reading stuff I wasn't supposed to read, I already knew what was going to happen. So, I mean, I just did a little bit and I said, okay, that's it. Whatever. But I am like, you're starting to wonder now when they said that they specifically will tap you places or do things to activate chakras, was that whole thing to do with the whole thumb shit? Were they putting the screw? Were you screwing that shit down yourself? I don't know. It made me think about that when you were talking about the thumb and the pineal gland, the connection.
Have you ever heard of the torture technique, the thumb screws? Right. So it was like a torture technique. They would put you in the thumb screws, which was like this thing that they would put down on top of the cuticle. And as they're cranking it down, they want you to confess to certain crimes or whatever. But if they've got you doing that during an initiation, you're putting the thumb screws to yourself.
Yo, and then you know what they this is slick shit that they say. This was one of the reasons why I was like, what's going on in this place? They lift it up, they show you it's like a stick and it has a screw at the top. Then when they show you the bottom of it, it was like hollowed out. And they're like, now if you maybe noticed everything, basically what they're getting at is that not everything may be as it seems. That was the whole lesson to learn from that, because if I would have looked around and saw everything, I would have realized I could have just stuck the whole fucking thing on my thumb and wouldn't have had to turn the screw. Some shit like that. So like it was even weird, like that lesson, because right before that I had people push me into a pool and they're telling me don't trust my brothers and sisters and siblings, and now you're telling me not everything is as it seems. What the fuck are you telling me now? What's going on here?
It's like they're implanting paranoia.
No, it's like, well, technically if it's the second degree, that's my third time, and the other two initiations before that, they both told me you can't trust anybody in their own way. So I'm like, is this the 3 times? You told me 3 times after this, you're a fucking idiot. Who knows? Could be something like that. I don't get it. But yeah, I just wanted to toss that in there about that. The pine cone on there. Again, I know I said it 2 or 3 times already, but it's just weird to me thinking about, with that pine cone there and possibly connected to your pineal gland. There's a lot of stuff I think Crowley does that shows pineal gland stuff.
Well, if you think about it from the Greek perspective, you've got the idea of Prometheus and this thing that made us uniquely human. And so the thumb is one of these things that make us uniquely human, as opposed to one of the other animals. It sticks out. It does a lot of stuff that we tell it to. All these other paws and stuff, they can't, really operate the thumb. So it's one of these uniquely human traits in the hand that I think they were trying to glorify. It's like, this is the thing that gets us close to God, is because this makes us different from everything else.
To build upon that, I will say the opposable thumbs. I wish raccoons didn't have them, but that's neither here, or squirrels. Neither here nor there. But one of the unique things with thumbs is that only humans and primates can touch the thumb to the other fingers. So That's definitely a unique characteristic within the hand, thumb, finger, I guess situation. But the one of the things that I kind of wanted to insert, just kind of tangent, the the amount of population that's left-handed versus right-handed, I always found that to be really odd. That it's like 10% of the population, the entire population is left-handed. Well, you're told kind of or guided to be right-handed in elementary. I remember that, but for the most part, I believe it's only a 10% of the human population that is left-handed, and then like even less than that, like it's 1% that's ambidextrous. I thought that was something like you have it in multiples of 10. So
Well, sort of to
Well,
riff
there's
off your point, Lisa, since Nick brought up the story Headless, I'm just going to go really quick. This is Syncfoil. So I thought you would like this, Lisa, simply because this is the one thing I actually contributed to the Occult Research Institute in written form is the herb correspondences. So this is a really important magical herb in both Europe and North America for both indigenous people and Europeans. And so its name in French actually means the five-fingered hand, Cinquefoil, Cinquefoil. So it represents the hand of Mary. So actually, it's there's also an idea in Spiritism, which I believe also comes from this, and it's the hand of the saints. And you'll see this a lot of Puerto Rican kind of like Sanse. There's a hand, and it will have the five Orisha or the five saints. But sometimes it's different. It's not always, sometimes people pray, like use that candle or whatever, and they're not. It's not Orisha, it's saints, but some people that is. So, but basically it's that there are 5 roads for every person when they're born. And so they say you can't open all 5 roads in one lifetime. That's something I've heard people say. But this plant is the divine kind of savioress hand of Mary plant. So it opens all 5 roads for you. So and that's exactly what it's used for. It's used for luck, love, job, money, and success, just general success. So it's a really great thing, and you'll see in a lot of older recipes for Van oil.
and it reminds me of the 5-petaled flower that was found imprinted on La Virgen de Guadalupe in Mexico, and it's very symbolic to the Mexica Aztec people as well. So it's interesting that you bring that up because it's the 5 all over again. But yeah,
this is a rose too. It's a lesser rose. It's a potentilla. So it means, even the name means potency or potential.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Wow.
All right. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, and I think about like sacred geometry as well with some of the stuff we've talked about today, like which was big in Egypt. And I only mention that because Osiris was often depicted holding a staff with the pine cone on it. So I wonder if all this is symbolic of maybe an early form of masonry and building pyramids and building temples in Egypt. So it'd be like sacred geometry in conjunction with gnosis, and basically a way of putting the knowledge to use. And I don't know that masonry goes back to ancient Egypt, but some form of it might.
It does, and you're right. I think a lot of it goes back to masonry. Like I said, I just finished up my Anunnaki presentation for my PowerPoint presentation. A lot of people know who the Sumerians are, and when I was doing my research on them, a lot of people would say that they're known as the black-headed people, right? Or they're known as mankind or human, or something that identifies us as a species. But then I read from somebody who is a 33rd degree Mason, and I can't remember exactly which book it is. I have to go look and see which one it is. I know which I know what author it's from. I just don't know which book it is actually from. And he was saying that they're also known as brothers. Well, Masons identify each other as brothers, or at least every time I've come in contact with them, that word always seems to pop up. But they were known as brothers. Another good example of that is a lot of people know that Inky and Enlil, that they were brothers, right? but there are texts out there, which I actually have in my presentation, that one could be the father and one could be the son. Sometimes it flip flops, which one was the father and son. So the brothers part stuck out to me because that's a group of, and those were a group of individuals that was in the elite, right? They were, higher class than everybody else. And at a time, that's what Masons, and some of them probably still think as themselves as today. So it's just amazing that, the symbolism, and it doesn't just go back to the ancient Egyptians. A lot of the symbolism you can find in the Doggone tribe. And I actually had a podcast discussion with one of the authors, Larry Scratton, on his book about it. And he talks about symbolism. So yeah, it's definitely something in there, Egypt and Mesopotamia and all that. They have a link between each other. Even Mesoamerica has a link.
Hey, what about the Masonic handshakes?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a symbolism smorgasbord, they've got all these different parts of the hand that they're touching for different types of Masonic handshakes. That's very mystical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I read about them, it's more like you can't go to the next degree without perfecting the degree that you're in now. So how can you get promoted if you're not good at your job that you're at right now, right? Why would you expect a promotion? And they stick very strong to those rules, or at least from what I've read. I had books from Godfrey Higgins and, Albert Pike, and Godfrey Higgins is actually my favorite historian / author. And then you have Albert Churchward, I think that's how you say his last name. He talks about the symbolism. So there is definitely some, when you see symbolism, you can see that there's a certain language and meaning behind it. That symbol that you have right now means only one thing to a certain group of individuals, and everybody sees that, will understand that. It's the same thing like when I say with emojis and stuff like that, with pictographic scripts of today. You can have a whole sentence on just a pictographic script. It's just the people that are having that conversation, they need to have enough knowledge on their own on what each pictograph means. And hand symbolism is the same thing with, like, I don't know if it was before we started going live or after, while we was live, but somebody was mentioning about, some of the gangs and stuff like that. They can have a whole discussion with their hands, a whole discussion, exactly what to do. And so, it's a very easy way to communicate. I think when we started using words, everybody tried to use their words to mean whatever narrative they're trying to share later on.
I've
Can
got one more thing. Go ahead, Lisa.
Just really
Okay.
quick, I'm gonna take one stab again at the dead horse on the pine cone. The pine cone. The ones that we do see, or the ones that are more prominent, are the female, because pine trees produce female and male pine cones. The male ones you rarely do see. They're not showy. They mainly produce pollen. Jen, please step in if I'm wrong. But the bigger
Nope, this
ones are
is
the ones that
100%
you
correct.
see on the floor, whatever, the ones that people hold up. That's the female one. But anyway, that's it.
Oh, well, that's perfect, because you reminded me of something that I meant to say earlier. The Romans associated the pine cone with Venus, and so with the goddess Venus. So it makes me wonder, when you see that big bronze or whatever it is, that big pine cone at the Vatican, if that was them sort of quietly inducting goddess worship into the facility and the grounds of the Vatican itself. And if you look back at like the Etruscans, because the Etruscans built Rome, they actually had a goddess named Vatica. And
Okay.
So go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, Tim. No. I apologize. I shouldn't have jumped in, but you were saying something and I got excited. So I just want to change the angle for you. I want to say, you could say, I accept that. I accept that it could be a divine feminine, like encapsulation, like a crystalline matrix, you could say. That's very feminine, divine force. But I also think that it could just be adopting like something that's quote unquote, I'm not a perennialist, but I'm going to use the word perennially true. So it could be just something that appears magical experience. And obviously, there are people who attribute both masculine and feminine qualities to often the same things. So when you're looking at comparative mythology, especially from like east to west, as something that I often do, you see that there are different, very different ideas of the same thing, but then there is a kind of underlying truth to both of them. They can reason through, but it might be like a very different at face value understanding of it. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I agree. I totally accept that. Could be
Well,
like
I'll
goddess
say
worship, but
I'll say this because I might be wrong. I was just throwing it out there as a possibility because of some of the connections that I'm looking at here with like, again, I'm just saying this might be the case. I'm not saying it is the case, but like when I see that the Roman Empire seemed to kind of dissolve or morph into the Vatican, and there's, I'm assuming that maybe some of that goddess worship was still there, and maybe it got turned into something else, or masquerades as something else. But again, I'm not sure. But I do think that it's interesting that the Etruscans have the goddess Vatica.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the closest link between like the Roman religion and the Vatican is the Pantheon of Saints, like they have in France, like the Pantheon. They have, it's like people who were like born in like 1905. They have like enshrined there that they pray to. They have like actually official national prayers. So I think that that is very much like an encapsulation of that kind of like late empire Roman religion, which people often mistake for being very polytheistic. It was actually very much about the imperial cult of ancestors. So I think that's very interesting. Of course, every there are different goddesses and god names, and people, encoding things in those within those names and those like kinds of images. This is a great one. This is Shiva on top of the mountain, on top of the world mountain, you could say. Yeah, exactly. Like when Nick just showed, he's doing the Abhaya mudra. So this is the gesture of fearlessness. So you're going to ask, why is this calm, chill, dope smoking guy, why is he offering you the gesture of fearlessness? Because once you wake him up, he becomes Bhairava. He becomes very ferocious and he turns almost black, blue black. And he has like fangs and the carnal ground arises above him. So you have to, but that's also your own consciousness, your own mind. So when your mind wakes up, so you have to, that's why he offers the gesture of fearlessness. So you can first enter the garden or the mountain or the carnal ground or wherever he is, and you can bypass him and you can see him as just his placid face is not a mask, but it's just one of many. That's one way to think of it.
I really love that.
Go ahead, Headless.
I was gonna say that the skins kind of almost represent a fearlessness to both Dionysus and Pan. Like Pan has these fur patterns in his legs that are kind of like the stars, and so that's one of the reasons why he was referred to as sort of like this cosmic deity, is because he had all of the stars in his pelt. And so that kind of goes into this Dionysian character that, you also have the pine cone associated with Shiva. So there's a real crossover between Dionysus, Shiva, and all these different versions that they had, like Attis worship, going on in that Thracian region of Anatolia.
There's a clear link between elements of what you're saying, Solar, and like the Alcon Huns and their journey from more of that southern Turkey into a northern into the Himalayas. Excuse me, I couldn't think of it right away, but they went into the Himalayas, and that's really where Tantra started. The Bhairava Tantras were the first. But it's really important to note that this image of Shiva is in no way tantric. He's not suggesting anything tantric. There's nothing tantric associated with his worship in general, and most Indians would not understand this image in a even remotely tantric way. I obviously gave it a little flavor, but this is a very normative, very orthodox kind of image. So he's at sleeping consciousness. That's how a normative quote unquote Hindu would understand this. He's at sleeping consciousness, and the water is flowing down but this the water from heaven. So he's really the god of secret knowledge. If you wanted like the secret, not the secret idea of Shiva, he's the god of secret knowledge. So even the moon he wears, it's not really a moon. Most normative Hindus would understand this to be a moon. It's actually the eclipse. And it, depending on what side it even is on his hair, it actually is, you can astrotheologically sort of align it to the Nietzsche cycle, which is like a 16 sort of, I think, night moon cycle. There's different numbers for different systems, but it's a very interesting thing. Like you can really change, like what Tim was saying, you can encode a lot of things into iconography, signs and meanings. And to answer something that you said, Solar, and then I'll shut up, I promise. But the animal skins have a really interesting meaning. So the leopard skin means he's overcome the sort of demon, you could say, of bliss consciousness. So he doesn't need to always be pleasured to be chill. And if he is sitting on the tiger skin, he's overcome all fear. So he's offering the gesture of fearlessness, but he's also overcome it himself. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on for that long. But thanks.
No, you're right. I just wanted to let you know you're not doing spaces. Solar isn't here. That was Headless with Tim that you were talking to.
Did I say Solar?
Yeah, twice. I thought maybe the first
shit,
time.
I'm so sorry.
I was
I
like,
apologize. I apologize, guys.
it's funny. It was like
It's
Solar?
late. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's all right. It's all right, sir. Oh, there was something I wanted to say about this, but I needed Lisa here, so I guess maybe I'll have to pass for now. I do one thing I do find interesting with this does almost remind me of the hermit card because of the snake and the hand open again. Because that is I also think that, I mean, the snake I think is can be used for multiple reasons. Obviously, I do think it can also sometimes show like something to do with the pineal gland or your eyeball. I do think sometimes the snake, when I think with the hermit card, it's more of showing possibly the the twisting of the pupil closing, smiling closed. And I have said that it does happen. Like when that when I have him, this really all could be a grass. Me looking at the snake on the right side, but I've even said that's the pupil of mine that spins closed, like it's pinned. And I do see the snakes on the right side of him. Well, yeah.
No, you're totally right, Nick. It's so in Tantra, he has actually secret channels inside his body. There's like a trident, like there's 3 channels that rise up. One is behind that eye that you're talking about. And so you'll see in Tantric iconography, they'll do one eye, the pupil is a sun, and the other eye, the pupil is a crescent moon, like an eclipse. So that's even how it's described. And the dragon of the eclipse, again, to reference the serpent, right? So it all makes sense to what you're saying. It's absolutely not wrong at all.
Jin, I got one for you. John 3:14. Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up.
Yeah, I would say that's. I'll keep this quick, Jen.
No. Please go. Please go.
Well, that seems to be Caduceus symbolism to me. Just saying.
I think that, like on the hand of Sebasio, you've got this snake figure that's always sort of present, and with this sort of Dionysian type idea. So you've got so many different snakes that apply into that symbol. They were talking specifically about the one at Delphi, but the idea of the snake being wisdom and treachery, these kind of dualistic kind of symbols are associated with the Bible all over the place,
Yeah, being knowledgeable. That's why Eve ate the fruit. Yeah, that's why I say that too. Like a lot of people say, they correlate, the serpent, Satan, Lucifer, the devil, whatever the case may be. I mean, they throw it all in one category. We know that between us, at least, we know the difference between them. But when it comes up to the snake is always known as someone that's giving knowledge to somebody else. And it seems like that, and what we do with that knowledge determines whether if it was for good or evil. But the point is when you see the snake was always seen as, as something, trying to give somebody knowledge. I mean, most people are scared of snakes when they see them. But, they have that.
The believers in the New Testament the believers in the New Testament are said that they can now tread upon snakes and scorpions. I think there's a little bit of astrotheology in that too. You've got the symbol of Scorpio in there as well.
That was great, Tyrone and Headless. I have to say, we don't always agree, but honestly, really great points. And what Tyrone said, I think, is really, really profound, because that is exactly what it is. Like, Shiva swallowed the poison, the Hala Hala poison, that arose from the second turning of the supernal waters. And so he swallowed that, and he keeps it in his lower body, his stomach. He has to totally focus all his, like, a third eye power, you could say, like Naruto kind of. So it swirls around in his stomach, and so he keeps that, so like his own son figure can emerge. So that's even an idea. So really interesting. Thank you, Tyrone.
Another thing I wanted to mention with this is just to go back to I've even wondered if this is even sometimes why it's even shown on like the hermaphrodite, or those alchemical man and woman, the nipple showing, just to go back to the NOx formula, and something that Crowley came up with. You will at one point act like you are Isis breastfeeding Horus, holding Horus, and you'll be pinching your nipple. And I'm wondering if the nipple is showing because that does connect to the pineal gland as well in a female. So just wondered about that.
But why is the skin blue or bluish?
Okay, you see how his lingam, that brown pineal gland. I know that's what Headless. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you solar before. I apologize for that. His brown lingam. So there's covered in milk is the idea. So, but it's really supposed to be a black chlorophyte stone. So when you pour the white milk over the black stone, it looks sort of blue. So this is like it's like clear, like very night sky, or very day sky, excuse me. So like turquoise, it kind of appears turquoise. So he's like turquoise, like the day sky, because he's sleeping.
Okay.
He's drinking that colloidal silver shit.
You never know, right?
Very lunar coded. If you want to get into that lunar mindset, you got to drink the colloidal silver.
Well, it makes sense, right?
One other question I had for that.
Go for it.
Last picture.
Oh, wait, got another one. There we go.
There you go.
Well, that's the same god, so that's the same. That's Shiva, and then that's his wife, and she's nursing him. This is right after, in fact, that he drinks the poison, and only her breast milk can save him, can repair the worlds. That's how it's described.
Like even on the last one too. I mean, maybe they do it. Jen, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do it on all of them. But like they have marks where their pineal gland would be. Do they always do that, or?
It's special for Tara because she is the third eye. So the original story is the original goddess of heaven got cut up into 51 pieces. So obviously magic number. And then, so each part of her falls on a specific place, and then a new goddess sort of herself arises. And so Tara arises as part of the third eye. So when Tara is also associated with that Hasidic idea of perception. It's very much her idea. She is the flame of perception. That's even how it's described. But she's also the waters of supernal mercy. So she's actually it's interesting because it's actually both Gevuradic and Hasidic at the same time.
Well, the last two images, I don't know if it's common or not.
Yeah.
They had the nipple showing, and they had the pineal gland drawn on their forehead. And Lisa, since you're back, could you please explain the connection between the pineal gland and the nipple?
Yeah. I don't know the exact mechanism off the top of my head, but yes, the pineal gland influences the pituitary for milk letdown, which is prolactin, and then the feedback of oxytocin from the bonding that occurs between the mother and oxytocin helps with the release of prolactin. Prolactin causes milk letdown. And then the reinforced positive feedback with the child latching onto the nipple, and then the oxytocin bonding and all that other stuff with all that being said, during milk letdown, the milk itself carries vital information that is received in like packages of photons or packages of information that tell the child or tell the infant where it is, what time it is, daylight, moonlight, nighttime, what have you. It starts to program the circadian rhythm of the child itself. If it was not already starting to be programmed within the utero, because the child had yet to see light, sunlight, also reinforcing of the circadian rhythm comes from the mother's pineal and basically tells the child or conveys the information to the child where the child is, what season it is, and so forth. So yeah, the pineal does feed into breastfeeding very much so.
Thank you. Yeah.
And one other thing, sorry, this kind of tangent, but like in the event that a child undergoes or a child unfortunately goes through some sort of like head trauma, the child will release certain enzymes or chemical messages in its mouth and its saliva that will feed into the nipple and the mammary tissue, and then will feed back up into the brain, and then the brain itself, mainly the hypothalamic pituitary axis, will then release certain peptides, I think, and will deliver healing peptides to potentially heal the brain injury or the head injury. So there is that too. And that's actually, that whole mechanism is being looked at for athletes that undergo like head trauma and stuff like that. So.
Damn. Thank you. Yeah, I was talking about how, earlier they showed a guy with his nipple showing. And then this, then I had mentioned Curly's NOx formula, which I have gone over with you, where he grabs the nipple because the baby's supposed to be feeding. And it is my opinion, that it may not just all be dicks and demons. And he could have been talking about the pineal. Or it may not all be just titties and cakes of light. There might actually be some science in this shit. But I don't know. That's my opinion.
I
Look at
agree,
the thumb too.
Huh?
It's closing the loop. It's closing the loop because you're putting the tip of your thumb on your nipple. The two symbols for the pineal gland coming together.
Damn. Okay. This is interesting. Nice.
And if their skin is turquoise and not blue, then turquoise is very symbolic, especially in Egypt and across other cultures too. But in Egypt, it's like protection and good fortune. And even
what if I told you? Sorry, Tim.
That was it. You're good. Go.
Sorry. What if I told you turquoise was actually the most magic color?
I could see that.
Yeah, because it's like the diamond thunder color. It's like God at the highest quality color. So you see like this turquoise idea, especially in the piranhas, they're very obsessed with color, and people often attribute it to race or caste. It's actually none of those things. It's actually talking about layers of spiritual purification, alchemical, you could even say. So the turquoise color is actually equivalent to both lapis and clear, both quartz and like dark blue. So it's really interesting what you're saying.
Yeah. No, and I it's one of my favorite colors too. I mean, I really love that color. And I don't wear it a lot because it's become like a hipster thing to wear a bunch of turquoise around town. Like I see these guys like hipsters wearing turquoise. And
Really?
that's fine. Here in my I mean, I live in a very hipster neighborhood of East Nashville, and these turquoise is hitting strides right now on the streets. But
turquoise
said,
never went out of style. Turquoise never went out of style over in Navajo country.
Right, that's a good
old
point.
Navajo. Yeah.
That's what
rock that shit forever.
Yeah, it's been the Native Americans for sure.
Going off what Jen said, I mean, it's the color of the Quetzal bird. And Quetzalcoatl, right? Quetzalcoatl, that's where we come with the whole feather serpent. And then also the Quetzal bird, whenever it sits at a certain area of the base of one of the, I think it's Cholula, of the pyramids in Mexico, you can hear it. Like it gives off a certain echo, reverberation. But yeah, Quetzal, the turquoise, sorry, the Quetzal bird has that turquoise color. And it's very, very important, very symbolic, at least to the Mexica, the Aztec people, and the Mayan people as well. And when the whole Virgin Mary thing came about, a lot of people think that she was robed in blue, but that was more of a European, I guess, misrepresentation. She was actually robed in turquoise because she was trying to give symbology to the Mexica people, which they consider turquoise to be the highest level of spirituality, like Jen said.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
What do you think about the Virgin of Guadalupe? I just want to get your opinion, if I could, real quick.
That's the one I
Both
was
Jen
talking about.
and Lisa.
That's
Yeah.
the one I was talking
What
about.
about the story? The story behind it.
I believe it, actually. I know that might be a surprise to people. I think it's a very interesting and profound story of Juan Diego. I know Lisa's done a whole episode, Lisa, Nick, and Teresa, on this, so I don't want to, re-encapsulate anything they've said, but I think it's a beautiful and important spiritual story. And I think it's, sometimes I know you might disagree, Headless, and that's totally okay. But I think that sometimes it's okay to subjugate the demon gods and to put them, sort of lock them into that gateway so they can't, affect our worldly reality. So I think it's a beautiful story. I think she subjugated the plague. The roses obviously have an incredible, very universal magical meaning. It's again the 5-petaled Rosicrucian rose. And that they're an old world rose grown in a garden in the new world. That's very Kabbalistic, very significant. It's like planting the seeds of, you could say, faith, or you could even say God. You don't have to take it in like a dogmatic Christian way. You could say it's just planting the seeds of God on this world that didn't totally have him in, or whatever conception that you have of it. And so it grew up. So we're still in the growing pains. That's how I think of it. You can think of it differently, but
Well, to rebut, you don't exactly know what I was going to say, because I got to agree with you 100%, but I see it a little bit differently. I think that they were doing self-sacrifice for this new society that came out of the Virgin Mary in Mexico. So I think it was sort of like a ritualistic thing, but you could see all of that reflected in the Virgin of Guadalupe. Like there's a lot of this, self-sacrifice that was present in a lot of the Aztec myths as well. It's like throwing yourself on the pyre to create a new sun. I think that's what was sort of going on with that whole ritual.
I think that's what the Virgin Mary was trying to say, is that you no longer need to throw yourself on the pyre. You no longer need to do self-sacrifice. You are a child of God, regardless if you are indigenous, regardless if you are baptized Catholic, regardless of anything. Because if you look at everything about the image, it is symbolic to merge not only Catholicism, but indigenous as well as Islamic. And so it was for the first time merging all the religions, and even Jewish, because she was a Jewish girl. It was merging of all the faiths into one, and trying to give some sort of common ground to all the people. That's how I saw it. Whether it was fake,
That's
whether it
exactly
was
what
not.
I mean. No,
But
I see that too, that it was like a revitalization.
Yeah.
syncretism has great power,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt, but I would like to get to my hand presentation now. Headless, you got to do yours. I don't know why we're talking about Guadalupe. I'm going to go back to my hand situation. So that's the topic of the show. You got to do yours, right? All right. So the hand, you'll see the hand quite often in paintings and stuff, and other hand symbolism. We got here is the hand of providence. Let me pull up. I'm trying to look at the notes on my end instead of on the screen. Maybe easier. Well, this is from one that is here. Let me go to the next one. Yeah, you have. Where's the dates? Oh, sorry, I thought I had the dates up here. Fuck. Oh God. All right, yeah. So it goes back. Some of these, whichever one, I'm not exactly sure it is now. It can go back all the way back to 244 CE that they start seeing it, and then they see it again in 6th century. Here, one of them is Moses in the burning bush. There's the hand coming down from the top. Here is just an isolated one that they found in fresco in Spain. You see this one in the hand of God as it intervenes at the sacrifice of Isaac. That's from 10th century. We got another one here with the clothed hand clutching a wreath. That's in Rome. It was between 1140 and 1143. We got another one here, the Visigothic capital with the sacrifice of Isaac again. You see another little hand popping out of the corner. We got the Ascension of Christ and the Noli. I don't remember how to say that. That's around 400. Got the hand coming out again. I find it interesting with a baby child, like or like a younger person, because like don't they say that like when you're younger you might actually be more like predisposed to like that's the other world, the higher realms. So they got another one up there. I really couldn't see it that well in this picture, but there is another one up there. That's from the 6th century. It's a semi-dome. What do we got here? We got another one from 1100. It's a baptism of Jesus from Daphne. Whatever that is. And I know we talked about this a bunch of times, but we do have the Hamza as well. That I just wanted to show that you do have an eye sometimes attached to that as well, and it's the hand sticking up. And then we do have this one that can be used to go against it. The more hand symbolism. Something I did want to mention is with this hand symbolism where you see like them sticking the thumb out. People and myself. And now I'm wondering, I was even going to mention this earlier, but I figured I'd go again with the pineal gland on your thumb. A lot of people sometimes when they do their rituals, they will draw it like that. They'll draw it with their thumb sticking out. I never understood why. I don't think anybody actually knew that did it, even knew why. They just kind of saw it done or whatever, and they're repeating it. For me, I just felt more comfortable. I felt like I was actually drawing something. I don't know. Fucking cares. Who knows? I just mind fucked myself into some reason believing to use that gesture. So I did want to mention that one. Then we already have this. Headless did go over this before. We got the Hand of Glory. We have that from 1565. Another thing that you see pop up. You have the Hand of Glory holding a candle from the 18th century grimoire, the Petit Albert. I think that was something that me and Lisa had even covered in older grimoires. And the Hand of Glory, again, the 1722 Petit Albert describes in detail how to make a Hand of Glory, as cited from Emile Jules Grilot, whatever. And it says you take the right or left hand of a felon who is hanging from a gibbet beside a highway. Wrap it in part of a funeral pall and so wrapped, squeeze it well. Then put it into an earthenware vessel with zimat, nitrate, salt, and long peppers, the whole well powdered. Leave it in this vessel for a fortnight, then take it out and expose it to a full sunlight during the dog days until it becomes quite dry. If the sun is not strong enough, put it in an oven with fern and vervain. Next, make a kind of candle from the fat of a gibbet felon, virgin wax, sesame, and pony. I'm not actually sure what that is. And use the Hand of Glory as a candlestick to hold this candle when lightened. And those in every place into which you go with this beautiful instrument shall remain motionless. Oh. You got the Philosopher's Hand. There's even another one, really the crown on the thumb, the eclipse. Kind of, well, that'd be not a necessary eclipse, but you know what I mean. The crescent, moon crescent. Yeah, if anybody got an idea about what the thumb and the crown could be, I don't, but
It's the crown of your head.
yeah, oh yeah, right. They go back to your pineal gland again. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, close. I mean, you're getting up there. Yeah.
Yeah, because look, the crown symbolizes, the top part of the head, And then the question is, could be considered king, god, or whatever.
Then we got the benediction sign. I just wanted to throw that in there. It's been linked to. I mean, I know Lisa, you probably explain it better. The whole benediction. No, you don't understand it. Actually, the whole thing with the benediction symbol and the problems with like the muscles and the fingers and stuff.
No, I don't. I don't
Oh,
know
okay.
why, but and I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, they said something about having ulnar neuropathy. Like they actually had like, but I don't know if I want to buy that. That's why they're making this, is because their hands are actually fucked up. I mean, I know David Icke said about his hand, which that might be true. I mean, we started doing art because their hands like that. I don't know.
That's the same as the hand of Sebasius.
Oh yeah, with the two fingers.
That's where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, those the last two bent. Yep. What else? What other thing? Oh, you know, it's interesting. Somebody had mentioned before earlier too. Oh, because we're getting into hand symbols. I can't forget this, but somebody had mentioned earlier. I guess what's her face throwing up that hand sign like this. I have suggested that I also sometimes do think. I mean, it could just be easy enough. That's a symbol of fire, but then there's also the God, Lisa again. What part of the brain is it where it turns into triangular?
The pyramidal cells. And that's usually around the cerebral and amygdala, prefrontal cortex. Sorry. Yeah. So this is the whole perception that you have that almost triangular shape of cells or concentration of them.
Is that also the part that I think might be considered Amon's horn as well?
Oh, you're okay. Sorry. Yeah, that is going to be not the cerebellum. My goodness, I'm so sorry. But yeah, that is what houses it sits on top of the pineal, and that is for memory, as well as cognition, and like perception of like where you are, how you are, all that other stuff, which basically feeds from the pineal as well, like orientation.
Yeah, that part of the brain isn't like the rest of the body's basically done in hexagonal, right? And that one's done in like in a pyramid. Yeah. So I had wondered, I mean, maybe that's a stretch, but I have wondered if maybe that's why some people might put it up in that area. And then that reminded me, I know some people take this as 666. I mean, my whole idea is 666 is a little bit different, but that made me think of 666. And I have to say, for the YouTube listeners or the people viewing YouTube, today is our 666th video right now that you're watching. So pat yourself on the back. But yeah. And then you know, another thing too that's used in ritual magic too. I mean, this sign of silence. I mean, I don't know if that's going back, if that is using your hand. I did want to bring that up. I mean, that'll be brought up to you in ritualistic work from my experience. Sometimes when you're done doing whatever you're doing at that direction, once you're done, like whatever, you bring your hand up or you do it like that, basically saying like, I'm done. Or in the Star Ruby, you will start off like that, standing in the middle before you do anything with your hand, making the sign of silence and then swooping it down. You know, Apapantos Kakadamenos. He's, you know, sitting and started off the ritual, but you actually start that ritual off with the sign of silence and like undoing it or something. I don't know, but interesting. I did want to bring that up.
I wanted to interject. It's the hippocampus. Sorry for the people that are like, Lisa's has it completely wrong. It's the hippocampus, and that is responsible for memory as well as learning. This is the part where you have spatial memory that we were talking about. This is the where you where you take short-term memory into long-term memory. So obviously learning and all that other stuff. It's the seahorse of the brain. Yeah.
I actually think in Game of Thrones, whatever that next sequel was, I forgot the name of it, House of Dragons or whatever. I think the first one was very heavily based on eyeball and brain shit, but in the second one, like they have like the seahorse. There's actually like a family that's related to the dragon people with the seahorse. And I'm like, I'm fucking telling you, that's brain shit It's just too coincidental.
Nick,
This
Nick, I
this
had a
actually
decode
looks
on that
like
symbol. This one, you know what this is? It's called the fig. It's a mildly obscene gesture that uses the thumb wedged between two fingers to ward off the evil eye, insult someone, deny a request. It has been used at least since the Roman age in southern Europe and parts of the Mediterranean.
Yeah, I think, and then he could use this as the same thing. I think he was saying too against the evil eye. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, thank you. All right, what else we got here? Oh, what were you saying, Tim? You asked something, right?
I was just going to point out that from this angle, maybe it's just the angle of the camera, but this looks like a giant eyeball.
Oh yeah, there was in our eyeball series, there was tons of domes that we showed on the churches. That I'm like, I'm sorry, those things look like fucking eyeballs.
Yeah, it does.
There's
Yeah.
even like some of the domes where it's almost like you even see them with the design is almost even like the layers that you'll see of what the cornea is even like looks like. It's like, what the fuck? Did you actually know that?
The one in the eyeball thing that we did, Nick, with Teresa, the Oculus, is it the Pantheon? Please somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But
No, you're good.
the Oculus is like, we thought about, it could be like the pupil, but then also when you showed the whole thumb with the crown, where the crown goes when the baby is born, that area of where the crown is super soft. Remember Teresa was talking about that, and how like it's almost like the oculus of some of these Greek areas where Greek temples where it's open to that area, which it's open down into the hippocampus and into the pineal area. So yeah.
And Lisa, you bring up a very interesting point about that light. So if you look back at other animals that have evolved with the pineal gland, it's almost like a third eye that sticks up on top of their brains because it's taking in sunlight. And then as the brain is built on top of that base lizard level layer, that's when you have these other parts of the head coming in, and that's the whole thing, you know. So the middle of the head really would be taking in that light, especially during the part of the time that the baby is youngest, because it's already a soft spot.
That even makes doesn't it make almost like a Y symbol too? The way it goes on top of the kid's head.
I believe
It
so.
does, the way
Yeah.
that it's stitched together.
Yeah.
Because essentially neonates are not blind, but their retina tissue is not fully formed. So yeah, they would need some sort of okay.
They're called sagittal sutures, and the sagittal sutures on the elongated skulls are different than on other humans. That's one of the indicators that they might not be the same species.
All right.
I find this to be an incredible image, Nick, just because
Oh.
it just reminds me so much of tantric iconography and
Really?
of course the eye, but you can see so much in it. Like you can see they put so good Kabbalah. They everything has a meaning. Every number, all the numbers of things, like the trees, like to have 8 of them. That's very interesting. To have the lambs, 12 of them plus Jesus is 13. That's very interesting. To have the blue and the gold and the red and the green. It's all very interesting. Like it's a very, they were obviously doing something very cool in the 6th century to have come up with this, because this is a very interesting image that obviously the later church kind of forgot for a while, in my opinion.
No, the art is actually rather interesting, especially inside here. Yeah, I was kind of really stuck on that hand and Providence thing. I really don't know much about it. I mean, I was even telling Headless about that shit last week.
Well, Nick, I got something for that.
Yeah, because go for it, please.
In the Old Testament, it was said that God came down from heaven and wrote mysterious writings on the walls of Babylon. It was like that hand of providence motif perfectly illustrated as this, God character made his hand visible so he could write with his finger on the wall in one of these courts. So it was like the invisible God made visible is in the shape of that hand. Yep.
That fucking hand. All right, yeah. I mean, I didn't have much. I just wanted to get that out of the way. There's definitely something up with that shit. I don't know.
What's
I mean,
with the hand coming out of the sky, right? Like,
Yeah.
you showed like, and I don't know, like this is kind of might just be kind of dumb, but like there's a Nine Inch Nails album cover from the album's called Year Zero, and it's got a hand coming out of the sky. And I always wondered why he used that, but maybe it was like a nod to some of this stuff.
Yeah, right.
That's a perfect example right there.
Go for it, Jen.
Well, I'll just be really quick. I just wanted to tie in the Virgin of Guadalupe with the hand symbolism because it is the Holy Family with the Virgin of Guadalupe, the Holy Child, Saint Joseph, Saint Anne, and Saint Joaquin. So you have the 5 most powerful, sort of like you could say like the biblical lineage, all in the palm of your hand. And so the wound there, yes, it's also a stigmata, but it also has a very interesting significance when you study saint hagiographies. I used to be very obsessed with this as a little kid, saint hagiographies. So the idea is that blood is related to fire in the humor system. So as fire is the element of watching, it can also be depicted as an eye. So Nick was even saying in our group chat, he was like, well, I won't say exactly, but he said there's a gash in the sky. And then I said, well, it could be a yoni, but what if it's also like this? What if it's also like the hand could also be the same thing. You could see it. It depends on the shape, like a Vesca Pisces kind of. Is it an eye or is it a hole? What is it?
On the hand of Sebasios, it has Pisces directly in the middle of the palm.
You know what I meant to? Oh fuck! I really wish I would have remembered this shit. They'll remember because they were here, except for Tim. Oh, you weren't either. When we had Ashton on, he did show remember he showed like a Vesca Pisces at one point. The reason I mentioned in the chat earlier is that gash in the sky is because that's actually one of the lines that was in Libra 370. And I just found it really weird that he ends up showing even if you watch the video, it looks like the plane flies into a gash or fucking rip into fucking fabric. And I just found it really weird when it gash and then I'm looking at the fucking yoni or whatever. I was like, I don't know, but I wish I would have remembered that then. I would have brought that.
You know what? I wanted to ask him, and I forgot to ask him, has he ever seen that show Manifest? Because that show Manifest reminds me a lot about that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't even know.
I just had an interesting thought.
What's up?
If you look at the edges of the painting, it kind of looks like there's a yoni shape to the central figure. So is this depicting sort of like the birth of a child or reaching in to get a child out? And plus, look at the place where Jesus is. Again, he's got the symbol of that pine cone right in the middle of your forehead. He's the child at the thumb. That's the pineal gland, right?
Yeah. That is interesting.
I do think the fish symbolism is really interesting in comparison because I think it actually does mean the same thing, headless. I think that was a good inclination. I think it's about I think you can understand it in 2 layers, probably more, but the way I understand it is in 2. So it's like the transmutation of fish, the very magical, very alchemical act, the provision for thyself, and then also the transmutation into the kingdom of the sun, which is not necessarily the church, but it's also like in the more Rosicrucian sort of, it's not Gnostic, but people might understand it as that. It's more the kingdom is in your heart. So, however you understand that. But I think it can be both things.
Well, I mean, there's the crossover there too with the center of the palm and sort of like Mary touching her heart. That whole sort of bleeding heart motif can kind of play into that palm center of the hand as well.
Our Lady of Guadalupe is pregnant as well, as Lisa has said. So she's not quite a mother yet. She's preconceptual, not preconceptual, but prepartum. So she's still generative and able to sort of like contain the heart of mercy. That would be maybe a very Catholic Rosicrucian kind of way to think of it.
And they
And
call it
at
the
least in
crown
the
because of crowning
yeah. Yeah. could
coming
be.
out through the loop.
I don't know if y'all mentioned this, but y'all talk about stigmata.
I don't think so.
How about-
One of the things that I thought was very interesting, at least with some of these certain what I call them Hall of Famers in Catholicism, and they don't have to be Catholic. There has been some stigmatas that are not religious or that have, I guess, a leaning towards. But I've only heard of the ones that are. But basically, it's the bleeding. It's the routine bleed or what continuous bleeding from the palm of the hand to indicate the wounds of Christ sustained during crucifixion, which is oddly because they said that there's no way that he could have been crucified through the hand because it would have just slipped through. That it probably was more through the wrist. But with these stigmatas, I know Padre Pio suffered from that, and it was a continuous bleeding from the hand, and he would be giving mass, and there were people that would claim that they would see him bleeding from his palms. There were times that he bled so much that he had to take solace because of how much blood he lost. But there is that, and it's supposed to indicate to be touched by the divine. And then the other thing is that whenever they do house relics or saint relics, one of the famous ones is the hand. So yeah, it reminded me the image reminded me because that's what the that center bleeding thing is.
I think that's a very good point. I think trances can program the body as well as the mind.
Oh,
And so having that state of mind can really produce things like this in the body as well as, spiritual influences. And that's a big part of it too.
Oh, something I actually wanted to ask you, Headless, because I wasn't sure if you were going to actually cover it or not. Because I think this might have been what spurred your idea of the hand symbolism. One of them. Wasn't it like I was going to bring it up, but I thought maybe you knew more about it. Like in medieval times, didn't they used to kind of make like a hand, like almost like something you could wear actually, but it would be like remember you showed it? I think it was like almost like some made out of metal, like they were making like hands. So some guy made like his own hand, and then I think that you're going on something about like that whole.
That was a really interesting guy, right? This was the a mercenary German from this part of Germany who had the famous line, "Leck mich am Arsch." And so Beethoven was either Beethoven or Bach who wrote a entire like symphony around this phrase, which means kiss my ass. And so he's famous for this. And he also got his arm blown off by a cannon. And so he built himself a fully articulated metal arm that he could hold a sword with. And it was magnetic in the palm, and he was able to raise this thing and sort of command his troops. And he actually lived to a much older age than most mercenaries did back then. And he died in his like 70s, which is kind of incredible for a guy who lived as rough as he did. And so later on, the Nazis adopted this guy's name for their battalion. I think it was the Waffen Grenadiers or something like that. But the whole idea was, he was this folk symbol from back then. And then if you look at this one manga called Berserk, you've got a German mercenary with a fully articulated metal arm that carries a massive sword around and cuts people in half and stuff, right? And so somehow before the internet, this guy is writing this manga about sort of like this German mercenary that was already idealized by the Nazi party and sort of became this folk symbol, so it's a really funny connection because the guy had no connection to this culture or knew anything about it when he started making this character Guts. And the guy's name is Guts von Berlichingen, and Guts' name is Guts in the comic book series. So there's just all sorts of crossover and no real explanation for it.
Fucking God. But like even back in medieval times too, I think they used to like make like hand decoration things too, like that guy had as well. Yeah, fucking wild, that story.
I found a chart online. There's several of these charts, and they're Masonic hand gestures. It's very interesting. It's almost as if they could essentially carry out a conversation just using their hands, if any of this is correct. As I was thinking about, Nick, earlier you did something like this, right? Like you showed the pointing finger. I think, I don't know, maybe you were talking about something else, but you know, this right here, right? Like I looked that up and it's like a G in sign language. So, and I thought about the G and like the Masons. So I went and looked at the Mason hand chart, and this same hand gesture for the Masons means caution. It says it means a indexing or caution. But then I found all these other interesting things that the Masons have. So it's almost like they have their own little type of sign language going on. Just throwing that in.
What's this?
Let me see. See if there's one for that.
One of the most common. It's Mason in distress.
Oh yeah, so I see that. It says,
I thought that was this, right?
wait.
No, Mason, it's like this. You're doing the chi ball. That's Mason in distress.
Well, so I don't know what this is, but somebody's got that listed as Buddha Patra Mudra. Buddha Patra Mudra. That hand
Mudra,
signal you just did. So I don't know what that means, but
Do it again.
Well, again,
Do it again.
Sorry about that.
chi ball. I think it has something to do with the chi ball, right? Because as you're creating the energy, that's used a lot in Tai Chi and other, quasi-Buddhist, influenced stuff. So I don't know. I'm not the expert in that field.
This is an Ethan question, but Taoism and Buddhism can be conceptually treated as the same, in my opinion. So if someone gives you shit about it, just be like, Jin told me. It's totally okay.
That's why I was looking forward to Ethan, because he knows all these mudras, hand signals. I know a little bit about the ninjutsu hand signs, right? So they had their own system of mudras that they were supposed to use to get into calm states of mind. And so you have all these different mudras that these ninjas would use before going into battle as sort of like I guess, chi magic, right? And so they've got these different ones that kind of look like this, and other ones that kind of look like a dragon, right? And so these different mudras are supposed to channel energy in different ways.
The animal hand signals. If you watch Naruto, it explains this entire concept like really well. Yeah, each hand sign is related to constellation, also an animal of the zodiac. Yeah, exactly what Headless said. It unlocks a gate of energy, chi, you could say, and it also invokes the divine lightning strike from the goddess Marishiten, who's not always a goddess. Sometimes she's a god. She's kind of mithric in that way. Can be a god and sometimes a goddess. Not hermaphrodite. Just different people have different ways of looking at her. But in Buddhism, we say it's a girl.
I think it's just a really interesting way of casting spells, I'm sure that they had stuff like that in other places. And also, we didn't even get into palmistry. I mean, didn't palmistry used to be the biggest form of divination forever? That's very mystical.
That was huge for a long time. Yeah, that's a good point too.
I mean, your whole life mapped out on the palm of your hand. That's pretty important, I think.
Yeah. A lot of people they pretty much adhere to that to an extent. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like how people are with astrology. They'll actually be like, "Oh, well, Mercury's in retrograde, so no matter what, my life's fucked up." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you automatically already put into a structure. Yeah.
Right. But like any system, I think you can maximize its effectiveness just by looking for the positive things and how to use those signals right.
There was something else too with another hand symbol. Are there any other hand signs? For some reason I was thinking of one and it escaped me now. Like I can't remember.
Thousands.
Yeah, I know, right? But for some reason I can't think of any right now. Jesus.
What about that one? When did that one get popular?
All right.
I mean, that's pretty powerful, I mean, if you're thinking about, so this represented erect phallus to the Greeks, right? The alternative was the fig, which represented the clitoris. So you had the fig, and you had the erect phallus, and so these ideas too. You've got sun and moon, male and female. All this duality is contained within the hands. Sign language. Did we even mention sign language?
No. I wondered about that, but I was just like, I didn't know if that would like take us. I don't know.
That is interesting. I want to see a mute person cast spells.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, that's kind of why I looked up the sign language chart, because I was wondering if there were any kind of connections between what we saw today and sign language. But I didn't see many. They might be there though.
Do they even use?
It was said.
Okay.
It was said that all the Native Americans had a type of sign language that went between all the different tribes. So they had their own languages, but they spoke in a common sign language between all the tribes.
Trading.
I don't know how true that is, but
yeah,
there you go.
It only works. It really only works between related ethno-linguistic groups. So, like, if you're going from like Cree to Ojibwe, which are related, or even like Ojibwe to Abenaki or Menominee or all those ones on the East Coast, you can do it because you have enough consonant value to ascribe like the symbols, like the right meaning to the right symbol. But when you're going away from like those dialectical groups, your language is too decoherent from each other, so it's not going to really make sense. But yeah, no, you're totally right, Headless. They did use trading sign language, and it's actually it's not, I wouldn't say it's hugely significant, but it's just something interesting is that they've, as what Nick was saying, they didn't really have sign language because they've constantly reformed what sign language is. Like even till now, they keep updating it, changing words, adding words, just like we do in English, but it's more formal. So it's kind of like a language that's constantly never quite the same. Like in one generation, 10 years, you could say, it changes significantly.
Well, I just think about the rivers and how they would speak to each other, going up and down all these open waters. And to me, it says a lot about the different communities and how they related to each other. There was some kind of a familial bond that occurred back when they both spoke the same language and then diverted off from each other. I mean, there's just so many like images that you get from the different stories from the Native Americans that really ties into the ground that we're on that nobody really thinks about.
Yeah, there's a notion too that some of the rock art is related in some type of way to a sign language. And I'm not an expert on that, but I do find that connection is very interesting. Like it's like coded, you know what I mean? It's like double coded at that point. You've got art based on sign language. That's very cryptic.
And the ochre that they were using to put this stuff up hasn't faded in hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, that ochre doesn't usually last that long. So there was some other process for them to get it to stick like that.
Well, that's the thing. They had these methods. They were able to harden copper. They could take copper, which is malleable. It's part of its value is that you can mold it into a shape. But then they were able to put it through some sort of process where they could make copper in the shape of tools and then harden the copper so the tools wouldn't break. So there was all kinds of alchemy going on.
Copper is a bit of a base metal to make gold.
Right. Hephaestus was this god of blacksmith, and he was also part of these Idaean dactyls coming from Mount Olympus. So it's like any tradesman, anybody who worked with their hands were sort of pushed into that same role of having this elevated status of being able to be, among the people playing the games. So it was all part of their religious culture.
Yeah, the one that interests me, and this is something I'd love to know more about, but the thought or the theory that they were putting copper on top of the mounds, or some of their even pyramids, because at one time Cahokia was said to have at least 100 pyramids up there, right outside of St. Louis. And I've seen the idea thrown around by researchers that they were putting copper on top for some reason. So maybe there's some sort of a conductive element there that they were utilizing.
Receive the lightning strike.
Mm.
It's a very literal, but also very metaphysical way to describe like the same thing. Like however you understand it. Yeah, I think you're totally right, Tim. I think they would have put like all the implements, like the city in Florida is described as like having like the rods of gold and nets of pearls, and like it can be both metaphysical and material because it means something in both kinds of languages. So I think your inclination is totally right. Like every magician wants to ease himself into force himself into the experience with all the shiny tools.
Yeah, and there was an obelisk at Serpent Mound, and they said that they removed it because it was getting struck by lightning constantly. And I'm wondering, was there something metaphysical to that? And to the reason why, was it like charging the whole area or something? Just curious.
Well, the ions created after a lightning strike are hugely beneficial to the soil. So there is a fertility aspect to that.
Hmm.
Well, it relates also to your idea of turquoise, Tim. Is that the lightning can also be described as turquoise in quality, turquoise in color. It's because it's really clear, but it might appear to us as blue. The contours appear to us as blue, but it's really crystalline in its core. So it's like a diamond thunder matrix, you could say. So but that can also be described as turquoise. It just depends on your cultural context, but most people would understand that. Like a serious metaphysician would say, oh yeah, there's a similarity there. There's something that aligns with like lightning specifically and the color turquoise.
Yeah, it reminds me of what was it? I saw that there was some magicians were using, I think it was wood from a tree that had been struck by lightning, and they were taking the wood and turning it into a wand. And I guess the thought process there is that once the wood is struck by lightning,
It's charged.
it's charged. Yeah.
So this is a cemetery practice. I didn't know if I was going to bring this up, but it is really interesting since you did say it. So to get lightning struck wood, like this is pretty universal as far as I understand. Like you see it in a lot of different systems of magic. And so lightning struck wood is like the lignum vitae, right? Especially if it's from very specific kinds of wood. And it's interesting because the kinds of wood seem to be relatively universal. Like everybody has their outlier, and tropical countries kind of do their own thing. But the more temperate countries, they prefer elder. Even in China, like a Taoist to forge a Taoist, like a magic sword to expel ghosts, you have to get a lightning struck elder from the cemetery on a specific kind of moon alignment. It's like
geez.
so specific. Yeah. And especially if someone is buried under it, it should be a first son. There's all these prescriptions, so it's like almost impossible to do it.
It's worse than getting like where they say you can get like a wand from a holly tree on a Wednesday. And like you gotta
What are
take off with one swoop.
what are the odds that they might be using alchemical symbolism, so all of these things could relate to other things within like TCM or stuff like that?
I mean, you're definitely onto something, Headless. Like this is very doctrine of signatures. Even in Native American medicine, we'll call it broadly. Look at Dan Mormon's book. He has a whole section on what he calls lightning medicine. Lightning medicine directly corresponds to what is also called horse medicine and what is also called wolf medicine. Those three things aren't necessarily the same diagnosis, but they're all interrelated. So they would treat like edema is a really like lightning signature, we would call it. So that is treated by the external application of elder bark onto the swollen elephantitis joints, basically, and it would help drain out. It's a harsh purgative when you're talking about the inner core of the wood. Now, the berries and the flowers, that's totally fine, but it's a very strong purgative, so it really drains the water downwards. That's how it's considered.
Anything to do with Native America, the Americas? That what you just said about the horse and the wolf.
Absolutely. So the horse medicine is agrimony. So it's for both external injuries like stress, muscle stress, especially. And then wolf medicine would be for if you have very leaky gut, like if you have a camp fever, malaria, which also can interestingly be treated with agrimony, which in hoodoo and also in Native American sort of medicine systems is used to repel lightning. So again, the Culpepper was right. The medicine and the poison, they're interrelated things.
And the reason I ask is because remember how like we had discussed previously how the oldest, if you believe in fossils, the oldest fossil remnants that that we have, at least on document, it comes from the Americas. So they believe that the point of origin for the equus species and for the canids originate in North America, in the Americas. Sorry. And so when you said horse and wolf, that immediately reminded me of that. And that's, a little bit of a basis of my theory where I think that the point of origin for Homo sapiens maybe came from the Americas, and we migrated westward. So because we followed them, because that's what the fossil record shows, is that the equus and the canine species moved westward, crossed that way.
I mean, that I've been telling people this for years is like, I totally agree with you, Lisa, like 100, we'll say 110% use a magic number, but I totally agree with you, is that, like there are, so people don't know this, but we have cactuses here, not where necessarily where I live, but in the northern prairies. So the older name for them is actually horse cactus. The newer name for them is actually wolf cactus. So it's interesting because how are they named? Well, they're named for the shadow they cast in reflection to the light. So, and you can see it, like if you hold up like a torch or a flashlight, even at night, they actually kind of look like a horse's shadow or a dog shadow. So I always realized this as a kid, and I was like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense, this introduction of horses, because how would the plains were only settled in the 1700s. It wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you. And even in Cree, the word for horse is big dog or big wolf sometimes. So
Yeah.
there's an interrelationship between those things and how they're understood to like appear in the world. And maybe the dog and the wolf, yes, different, obviously, especially in tantric iconography, but there's an interrelationship, and you can say always associated with lightning. Horse is always associated with at least the sound of lightning or the neigh. Sometimes in tantra we'll
Thunder,
say
for
that
sure.
horse's neigh is right. So
Mhm.
yeah, they're all interrelated things, and I agree with you that I don't think we quite understand our origin. I didn't mean to go on a new world tangent, but yeah, I'm very pro new world.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to interject, it is about the hand, but it's not related to occultism, is that fingerprints on the hand, they are unique to each individual person. And one of the things that I wanted to mention, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, is with identical twins, no two identical twins have the exact same fingerprint, even though they have the same DNA relatively. Yeah. So just thought I would insert that there.
No, I think you're onto something. I mean, think about why palmistry makes sense is because you've got something individual to you on each one of your fingers. So why wouldn't you have more about your life going on in the rest of your hand? And so I also wanted to bring up the Mississippian hand-eye symbol, right? So if you follow Dr. Greg Little on Twitter, you're always seeing these cut out of bronze down in the Mississippian culture. So these were in the mounds, as this hand-eye symbol is basically ubiquitous all over the Mississippian culture. So I thought that was important too, because there you go. That's that hand symbolism popping up again.
Hey,
This
do you
is
know
like-
what mound or what area that one was found? I'm just curious. That's pretty
Well,
cool.
Mississippians were central to around St. Louis, right? They had
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of mound sites around there and big old platforms that were eventually bulldozed and used for other things. But I think there are still a couple of mounds, but that's the Mississippians were way pre-Columbus. So they didn't ever have any interaction with the Europeans later on, but who knows if there was influences before then.
Yeah. So that was. Do you think that symbol was found at Cahokia, perhaps Monk's Mound or Cahokia Mound?
I think they were related. I'd have to look up
That's cool.
the exact dates. But
No, either way, that's super interesting, and like I like Dr. Greg Little's work a lot, and I've been wanting to know more about that because I've seen that, right? I've seen those images with the hand with the eye in it. I really want to look more into where those were found. It's awesome.
just follow his account. He's always posting that stuff and where it can be found and all the rest of it.
There's a great book that I've referenced before, but it's Jason Berry. He wrote a book on Black Hawk, who's a spiritualist saint from Wisconsin. He talks about the Mississippian snake cult, how there was parts African, European, indigenous. And so, and probably a lot of the Christian snake handling actually comes from more like that than it does from a biblical source. I'm not saying they never did it in like the Middle East, but I think that it probably has more Americanized roots than maybe people are comfortable with.
This is what I keep talking about meditating on this hand of Sebasios, because again, it's snake handling right there. And snake handling, there's something about these two symbols that go together, and you see it in Ophiuchus, right? He's the snake handler. He's got these other things. There's something about hand symbolism and snakes that kind of go along together.
There's a hand signal with the eye on it that is Hebrew in origin. It's called Hamza, and I think maybe the Arab version is the hand of Fatima.
Yeah. I think I just didn't really say much about it. Yeah, I'll bring it up for you. Go for it. Yeah, what do you got on it?
Oh, not much. It's just that I looked it up just to kind of refresh my memory on it, and it's saying that it was a palm-shaped amulet that was used in North Africa even, and of course in the Middle East. So, and some of the people were using it as a guard against the evil eye. Let's see, what did they actually say here? Hamza has been traditionally believed to provide defense against the evil eye.
Yeah, I think
it is.
If you change it depending on which way it is, it also makes differences too. I've heard that if the fingers are down.
Yeah, there's an inverted version.
The Turkish version. No, exactly what Nick said. I'm just teasing. But it is called the Turkish version. It's for Jim version. Not my name. Like actual Jim.
And okay, so early use of this can be traced back to amulets associated with the goddess Inanna or Ishtar. That's very interesting.
It always goes back to the star goddess. 100%. I mean, that's the Himalayan story. Tara is the star. That's what her name means. So I totally agree with you, Tim. It's Astarte, Ishtar.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're all the same, but they're all interrelated.
Or Aphrodite is another name here that's used. It seems like it's like the same symbol.
If you look at,
but in different cultures, it's a different name for a similar goddess.
This one's wrist has been punched. This one's wrist has been punched out, but normally there's supposed to be a woman nursing a baby inside of the wrist part right there on that hand of Sebasios. Yeah, right there in the cave. she's supposed to be nursing the young god Sebasios before he can rise up to his higher form. It's all in there, dude. It's so crazy.
You know, that this in particular could just, well, what if here? This is just a big what if. This hand, the eye and the hand symbol, going back to these Mediterranean roots and Hebrew, even, it's like that could have something to do with this theory that there were Hebrew people over here before Columbus, well before Columbus. You know, I'm looking at a location in Tennessee right now that I'm researching where there is a wall. It's one of these rock walls that's underground, similar to the one out in Texas. But people have dug it up. I've found a couple people who have dug it up. They claim that there were Hebrew symbols on the wall. And then there's other Hebrew artifacts. If you look at the Back Creek stone that was found here in Tennessee, it was found really close to an old Cherokee city, but it had Hebrew on it, Paleo Hebrew. So
Paleo Hebrew, that's the key right there. Paleo Hebrew.
So
that's Phoenician. Paleo Hebrew is Phoenician.
Right. So this kind of looks like it might be a part of that whole Phoenician thing. The Phoenicians in North America, potentially.
Yes, sir. All over it.
Yeah. And what if those were the people who had, what if they were the ones who built the mounds? Or, you know,
probably had some sort of inspiration. Again, it's like this cultural diffusion idea. You know, they're taking these ideas and they're using it the way that their values and everything else works. So you see a lot of inspiration, but they make it their own.
Well, to bring it back maybe to the primordial, to the hand symbolism, like maybe in its primordial nature, this is white Tara, so she's associated with the North Star, true North, and she has the eye on exactly on her palm, and she's actually dispensing the gesture of boon giving. So very interesting, meaning that she can grant anything within the three worlds. That's what they say. So
very hand of providence.
But it's up to you. That's the difference with Buddhism. It's up to you. You have to decide if you're going to do it or not. You have to get up there yourself.
Talking about doing it yourself and free will reminds me, and then we're talking about the hand, reminds me of the painting by Michelangelo, Creation of Adam, where God has his finger fully outstretched and Adam's finger is not. And there is a gap between the two fingers. A lot of people have, and Michelangelo goes on to say that it was to indicate the moment in Genesis when God gives the spark of life to man, or Adam, rather. But what's interesting is that you would think that because Michelangelo was so precise and so detail oriented, and he was a practiced anatomist, he was a closeted anatomist. He would go and dig up bodies and do autopsies and what have you. So he knew the human body very, very. I mean, he goes on to create the David, and he even molds, that muscle within the forearm when you're lifting a specific finger. So he knew specifically everything about the hand, and yet he paints a painting with Adam having a non-outstretched finger. And so to me, and a lot of scholars have indicated that Michelangelo was indicating that the non-outstretched finger of Adam is indicating free will, is indicating it's there if you want it. You just have to reach for it. You just have to strive for it, and indicated by the gap. So to build upon what Jen was saying, and then the hand.
Absolutely.
I totally agree.
Yeah, well, it's even like stuff I've said that in some ways, I guess, getting like religious, but God, I'd say, I have to go back towards it. It's not coming towards me. So I can see that I have to make the decision to have that experience. I have to actually do the work to make that happen. Like that. What else about this, Jen? Is that a nipple showing?
That is I didn't mean to choose it for that, but then as soon as you pulled it up, I was like, oh, Nick's gonna love this. So,
Oh,
but
man. More nipples.
you know what? It's just extremely important. And I think it's her. So outer tantra would say it's a symbol of her infinite mercy that she can produce the milk, but it's really a metaphor for like the nourishing of mankind. Like Lisa was saying, like there's a wisdom process, a dialectical process with, yes, you can describe it in like the biochemical mechanisms in the body. That's totally legitimate, and that happens. But then there's also like maybe like what you talk about, Nick. There's like these while that's happening. So at the same time, there's like other layers happening in your consciousness. So and maybe they work together. Maybe that's like the secret sauce that like people have a hard time putting, all together at one time, is like to get to that special state, like easily or like readily. So I think that what I like about this image in particular for our, obviously, Headless is great topic on hand symbolism. I like it because it's exactly what you said, Nick and Lisa. It's about free will. It's ultimately like up to people how they want to perceive reality, and that's also what, as I said, what Tara means. She's very associated with this idea of loving kindness or bodhicitta, and so I think like, how do you want to be in the world? That's what it kind of says to me. It's like, do you want to focus on the primordial truth, or do you want to, play in the great carnal ground?
That actually brings up the monkey's paw. It's the paw that grants you wishes, right? And so there's some kind of an aspect to that too. It's like this is the free will that you have. You can get these wishes, but it may come back and bite you in the ass, The things that you think you want might not be that at all.
Heard of that. Monkey's paw. Oh, Jen, did you have anything else on this?
No, but I do like that she has her third eye. I think that ties in to everything that we, like everyone said tonight, and I think it is about perception. It's like that's really what matters. That's what I've really learned in the last couple of months, like podcasting with you guys, and on my own show as well. But obviously, in synthesis, we do such interesting work, I think. But I've really learned that perception really matters, and it really matters, like the story you tell and how you tell it.
Well, yes, sir. Very well said. Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to add?
I learned a lot from you guys about this stuff. I took a lot of notes. I always say, symbolism plays a major part in our communication. And when you stick to the origins of the symbolism, you don't have all these different narratives that people are trying to create.
Oh, another thing too, I thought of with the whole, I mean, I don't think it's why people do this, but that is a thing that you will do in the, maybe the Star Ruby. I don't know, I'm getting confused, but I think you actually, oh no, maybe. Yeah, I think like people normally go like that, and then like when they charge the corners, they make that hand symbol and kind of project it out.
Jay-Z does that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That was also one of the movements for the series, the OA.
Yo, there was movements in the OA that I actually thought legit was from the hexagram ritual. I was like, looks like that added with a whole bunch of other shit. That's a little weird.
They did the sign of silence too.
Yeah, yo, you remember? Yo, you covered that on the fuck. You covered that shit a long time ago. Holy shit, yo, that was fun too because I had just recently watched it. Yeah, and you told me, you want to talk about the OA, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, just watch that shit. That shit was wild. That shit would be interesting to cover. That shit is so deep. That show.
There is so much in there. It's crazy, layer upon layer of stuff that you can pull out of it.
Hell yeah.
There's actually oh, sorry, Nick.
No, you go, sir.
No, there's another great show called The Magicians. Now, it is very hipster, millennial, and a little annoying sometimes, but their magic system uses hand sigils. It's predicated on that kind of the Eastern ideas of mudras and like path working through the hands. But there's also other processes. So that's kind of, they use a very syncretic way that they kind of imagine magic for the camera. So from a magician's perspective, it's actually a really cool series. Like, yes, annoying characters aside, they play with time, they play with space, they play with spirits, but they're not really religious. They're just magicians. So it's a very interesting series, and it's also a book if people are interested. I'm not plugging it because I'm friends with them. I just think it's good.
I think it's got a lot of high camp factors, and there's so many different references in there that make it kind of funny if you know what you're looking at. Because again, they do reference a whole lot of different systems of magic outside of that.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. We can totally agree on this, Headless, is that is a great series, and it's very millennial, very of that time, but it's a perfect encapsulation of like, I think, interesting and modern ideas about magic, and it's not so contained in like crazy ritual performance. It's like, yeah, there's a chaos magic kind of maybe flavor to the whole thing. It's like, how can we problem solve?
Well, I mean, that whole series on that, mythical island that they went to inside of the C.S. Lewis novel, that was just, yeah, I mean, that was so on the nose. They had so many different references from my childhood right there, and all these Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe type references.
It's the inversion of the C.S. Lewis story in a funny way, right? Like, because it's camp, but it's violent. When they go to the C.S. Lewis world, those people aren't nice. It's not like little gnomes. It's like the gnomes will eat your face. So,
Right.
And I mean, it happens. So many characters die and die in horrific ways. So it's a very interesting show just from that perspective. And then sometimes they even get resurrected.
Right.
Fucking face right off. Can't trust them motherfuckers.
Just real quick.
Occult.
Sorry. The two things. There are certain primates that cannot fully extend their index finger. So that made me also think about like maybe weak. Oh, that was the other thing. So if you read the book of Genesis, it mentions that God created trees to eat from, or fruit that would bear fruit to eat from. And when you look at primate diet, primates are predominantly frugivores. And so then you have the talk of fall of man. And then when you look at, I guess, the fossil record, the moment that man started consuming animal flesh, you have the growth of the prefrontal cortex and all that other stuff. And then you have this painting where maybe you have an index finger that is unable to be stretched out because of anatomical differences, within the primate taxa. But then you have a movement of progression in the Homo sapien line that you were able to stretch out that finger and touch the finger of God, because you've now moved into that evolutionary state of consciousness. Because remember, God's encapsulated in the brain. So
what's that famous art piece that's in the ceiling that has the finger touching God's finger?
It's called Creation of Adam by Michelangelo.
Yeah, when I was at it, I have mentioned this before. When I was at the Vatican, they said that they actually do acknowledge that that's the brain. I was like, oh, all right, okay. I mean, I thought that anyway, but I was like, all right.
Right.
I was a little surprised actually to hear that. Yeah, they're even. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I thought for sure I'd find more tracing boards with that hand of Providence in it, but I can't really find them anymore. In my mind, that's a strong association,
Yeah, you see those things like every once in a while. I'll notice them like on like a video, like I'm watching like on something that's not even on that topic. I'll just see the fucking hand like in the painting that they're showing. And I'm like, yo, there's that fucking hand again. Like, what's up with that motherfucker? But it's like the head from oh god, I can't remember now. It was a Scream or whatever with Chris Elliott sticking his hand in the fucking mashed potatoes. He's got that fucked up arm. He need like one of those coming down.
Scary movie, yeah.
I don't know if I even want to fucking reach out for that one.
I was thinking Operation Bluebeam. A giant hand coming from the sky.
You gotta look at that. You gotta check out that 9 Inch Nails album cover, man. I'm telling you, because they were even saying that whenever Reznor put that album out, that he was somehow alluding to the coming UFO disclosure movement. But that's the album cover. It's like it looks like a big old giant hand of God coming out of the sky. It's crazy.
All right, I guess we'll wrap it up then. There's a whole lot of shit right there. I'll let everybody plug themselves again, their shows or wherever they want to promote. We'll start it off with you, Lisa, again, the Occult Reject Mad Scientist. What is going on, Lisa? Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Headless, for bringing up the amazing topic to bring us all together in this wonderful panel where we just converse and commune among ourselves with the topic. Thank you, fellow rejects, for allowing me to interject my weird stuff. But thank you, Nick, for inviting me. To plug is only occultresearchinstitute.org. And if you'd like to find me, it's Solis Lisa. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. And we got Jin the Ninja.
Thank you, boss, for tolerating me tonight. I know it was quite talkative, but I made up for all those times where I was quiet. So
you brought third eyes and nipples. I can't complain.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad you liked it. So thank you so much, Lisa. I don't think it's weird. I think it's super interesting. I love that we can talk about plants and biology. Tyrone, I'm always in awe of how much you know. HG on fire tonight, for real. And Tim, honestly, I love that we have that kind of dynamic that I tease you a little and you kind of push back. It's really great, honestly. I think it's interesting. So thank you so much. It's a true honor to be with the panel. And if you want to check me out, Threshold Saints and the Grey Lodge. And we do have a YouTube channel now run by Mr. Matt Murrah. So
shit. Okay. Look at that. All right. Nice. You're gonna have to still give me the link for that. I'll include it. Oh, do you have it?
I'll throw it to you.
You have a link tree?
Yeah, I have a link tree. You
use
it.
Yeah, is it on there?
Yeah, I have to put it on. I've been really bad about updating it. Yeah, but I will. I promise I will. I promise I will.
All right, yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
Of course. And then we got Tyrone. What's going on, sir?
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, Jen, thank you for those kind words, man. I appreciate that. This is a great discussion. I learned a lot. Took some notes down. It's always a good day when you learn something. You know, the old saying, you learn something new every single day. So this was the day that I definitely learned a lot because of these 3 discussions that we had today. So my mind is kind of blown, but I enjoyed every moment of that. I love talking to you guys. I enjoy this a lot. This is a passion of mine, of learning as much as I can about everything. And of course, everything that you can find on me is on my website, rebirthoftheword.com. I have, YouTube, Twitter, and all that other stuff, but that's all through my website. You can go in there and find that. I also have a best-selling book, Journey Through the Origins of History. And I appreciate everybody that put their knowledge out there so I can gain it from them. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And we got actually we'll do Tim Constantine, please, sir. Everybody know what's up.
Hey, yeah. Very enlightening. Happy to be here. Happy to learn some stuff today. Sixth Sensory Podcast is my main gig. SIX, spell it out. I'm on all the major platforms, and appreciate the invite.
No, of course. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And Headless Giant, thank you very much for the topic. It was a fun one. It was very interesting. I mean, honestly, there's like so many different places we could still go with that. Honestly, with that topic, so many different things still. But thank you again, and please let everybody know where they can find your amazing show and where to send those weird dreams.
Thank you, Nick. This is a great topic. I love going into all these different things and having all these different sources of knowledge that all weave back together again, which is one of the major things that I want to get across about hand symbolism. It's fractal. It's going to spread out and it's everywhere. So this is partially why it's so important in the sensory homunculus, right? If you think about what it looks like inside of your brain, you've got the huge face, you've got these giant hands, right? The hands are almost bigger than the brain area, right? Because the whole idea is you've got to experience the world in a tactile way. And that's what really gets the hands as this powerful symbol, because it's like this other sense. The more we get online and stuff like that, the less we're using our hands and the less we think with our hands. And that's sort of like, I guess, a lack in that balance. You know, you got to get back into nature. You got to use your hands. You got to be like Hephaestus, you know, make something, play sports, do something with your hands. That's part of your brain. That's part of your mental health, you know. So hand symbolism is important for that very reason. It goes into all those aspects of our lives. So you can find me at Headless Giant Podcast at gmail.com if you want to get those stories into me for Thursdays when I read your emails. And also, you've got the trialogues, which is tomorrow with Ethan and Ricardo. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you for this panel. I think a lot of people had a good time, and man, I look forward to more.
Hell yeah. No, thank you very much. And yeah, thank you everybody in the chat. That's what's up. There was a lot of people here. And you know, you made a good point. I can't believe we forgot the fucking homunculus with its big hands. Oh man. See, that's another whole thing to talk about. When you said that, I was like, fuck. Nice. Yeah, again, thank you everybody in the chat. That's what's up. Had a good show. Thank you everybody that was there from the beginning to the end. Pretty much, you know, everybody's still there. That's what's up. And thank you all for spending the time to come on tonight. And everybody who was here all day. I appreciate that. That's what's up. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.